Alright guys, today I'm going to do a quick how-to video on changing the oil on a Suzuki Ltr 450. Mine is the 06 model. So first thing you're going to do is warm your bike up 4 minutes. That'll let everything flow out a little easier. The tools you're going to need on mine, although I think mine has been retapped. This is for the oil drain plug on the exterior tank. I need to use a 17mm. For the bolts, 2 horizontal bolts under the case, I use a 10mm. And for my oil filter, I'm just going to be using a 8mm. So those are the tools you'll need. After you warm your bike up, you are going to need to take off your skid plate if you have one. I've already done that step. First step we're going to do is that bolt there and that bolt there. Those are my horizontal drain plugs. Although it is a pretty crappy setup that they put those in there horizontally and you can't really get a socket on them because of all the stuff in the way. It's a pretty bad design in my book, but so first we'll loosen those up and let the oil drain out of there. Now, pull your bolts, and she'll drain out of both holes there for a little while. And then we'll move on to doing that drain bolt right there in the front of the quad. We'll work on taking that off and letting this exterior oil tank drain. Right behind the battery. So now I'm going to take my 17 and take this. How good you can see it there, but loosen up and taking out the bolt at the bottom of your exterior tank. Now that you got your oil bolts out, you want to take these 3 bolts out of your oil filter cover. It's located just under your header pipe. On the opposite side is the fill. So use your 8mm. Break these loose. Get that off. I'm going to check this O-ring here, make sure it's in good shape. Usually don't have to replace them too often. They recommend you replace them every time. The filter, pop that out. Always want check to see got any metal shards hanging out in it. Inspect it. Alright. So, and then obviously replace it if needed. I change my oil so often. I don't change my filter every time. I just check it, make sure it's all good. No metal shards in it. And I install it, clean it up, and then install it back. So I'm just going to reuse this one till the next oil change. Alright, now that you got that all cleaned up, you want to just put the cap back on. And I go around and just tighten them a little at a time. Just want to get them nice and taut. Alright, now that's done. You're just going to put your oil plugs back in, the two case ones and the one from your drain plug. Screw those back in, get those nice and tight. On all three of those they have these crush washers. That's for my bigger one, and that's for the two smaller ones. You want to replace those every time. Those crush washers actually crush when you use them, so after you use them the first time and take them off, they're really no good. So you want to replace those every time. They just go right there. So, alright, we'll put that back in. Alright, now that you got all your bolts back on, tightened, torqued to specs, you're going to take, there's your, right behind your battery there, your exterior tank cap, you want to take that off. Get your funnel, put that in there. Just like so. You get to have your four-wheeler ATV oil of your choice. I change mine so often, I just use the Valvoline ATV oil. And I'll dump that whole thing in there. So I put one full quart in there. I usually take my next quart and I'll add a little more and get it down to an even number where I can see, because you have to put 400 milliliters on the other side in the crankcase. So what I'll do is I'll put another couple hundred milliliters in this side. I'll put my 400 in that side, and I'll come back and almost empty the rest of that second quart into this, and then I'll start it up and warm it up, and then check the dipstick. So now that I've put a whole quart and a little bit more into the exterior oil box, I'm going to come over here on my crankcase side, remove that cap. It's right next to your filter there. You're going to pour exactly 400 milliliters. It says it right there. You're going to pour that in there. A little bit more to go. over to the other side. Put most of this right back into there. I'll leave a little, maybe a couple 100 milliliters in there and check my dipstick, but usually it'll take exactly 2 full quarts with 400 milliliters being on the other side there, and the rest going into the exterior oil tank. Reinstall your dipstick on your exterior oil tank. Reinstall your case exterior cover. You're supposed to change those O-rings out as well. I don't do it every time, but that's me, but they recommend you do that. Now just check over, make sure you got all your bolts in, your dipstick in, that on, and your screws in there all tightened, and then start it up, let it warm up for a couple minutes, turn it off, let it sit for about 3 minutes, let all the oil settle back down, check your dipstick and add as needed. Other than that, that's all there is to the oil change. Just wanted to do this. Some people that are new to the LTR can't ever find the drain bolts on the case because they're those horizontal ones, so just wanted to do a quick how-to video.